T.O. Blaze.
Hey there, this is Tio bringing another entry in my Laythe Legacies video. And in today's video, I'm going to be doing a sort of a rescue, recovery slash refueling of an unmanned or an uncurbed vehicle in orbit of Jool. So I think I've mentioned this multiple times, but sometimes when I go to Jool or some of the further planets, I like to send multiple crafts at once. And that was, I guess, more partially for realism, partially because I don't like time warping through missions that last, months or years in the game. So I sent a craft, didn't have quite enough fuel, and rather than reverting this to a previous save or something like that, I had sent a bunch of other crafts that did successfully get there all the way to Laythe or their final destination. So got this one craft just stuck in orbit around Jool. So I'm going to go ahead and rescue it. And I've technically got some fuel tugs that I could send from Pole and from Bop and places like that. But I'm going to send the vehicle all the way from Kerbin just because I feel like it, and just because it gives me an excuse to show you guys some footage of how I like to build things. Just sometimes go with unique aesthetics and designs. So you saw a basic fuel efficient upper stage, got an inner stage with a couple of those Wolfhound engines. Those are very, very efficient engines. Not as efficient as the nuclear engines, but I think they're the best vacuum engines, or the second most efficient engine in the game. I'm sorry, besides the, Xenon engines, which I pretty much never use. So as far as liquid fuel and oxidizer engines, the Wolfhound is probably the best way to go. Anyway, got lots of thrust and fuel in that core stage and these two boosters. Maybe going for cost effectiveness. The SRBs, those solid rocket boosters, are much cheaper than liquid fuel tanks and engines. But they're just they don't provide as much controllability and thrust, but they are cheap. So sometimes I'll go with the SRBs, and obviously you can't throttle them, which can be an issue sometimes. But hopefully this will get off the ground in one launch. And I like to speed through the launches and the circularizations and the transfers and all that, because you guys see it a lot, and this isn't a tutorial on how to do it anyway. So there, I've pretty much got into orbit with a fair amount of fuel left in that core stage, enough to get me halfway through the injection burn to Jool, the transfer to Jool, and pretty much always have to do a second burn halfway to Jool just to kind of fine tune my approach. And there you see, I'm not aiming for any of the moons in particular. I just need to circularize around Jool because that's where the target is. So that Wolfhound stage is just running out of fuel. So now I've got my final stage, the actual vehicle itself. And I'm going to go ahead and try to match my inclination on my target. Now I'm trying to find a good spot on our orbits to sink. And there we have one. And this isn't pretty common. Usually you'll go to a moon. But like I said, this thing ran out of fuel, so it's in the orbit of Jool, and that's where I'm going to rescue it. So now you can see the payload. Got a couple rovers that I built a while back, and I've been wanting to use them on the surface of Laythe, and I needed to come and rescue this ship. So it doesn't have any Kerbals on board. It's unmanned, but still needed some fuel. So now we've got what we need. We're circularized around Laythe, and hopefully I can pinpoint a landing zone close enough, relatively close to the little space center down on the surface of Laythe. And because it's a rover, anywhere is within 10-20 kilometers is probably good enough for me. It can be difficult to pinpoint a landing zone sometimes. So as you can see, the two rovers attached with a little module in the middle. The module in the middle is primarily for a probe core with not so much the probe core, but the parachutes and some batteries and some shared resources that the two vehicles could use. But as you can see, there's plenty of batteries on the back rover there. But another good reason for connecting the two rovers like this is they can drive as one unit, so I'm not having to make two trips. But one of the rovers is primarily suited for carrying lots of Kerbals, and the other one is primarily suited for conducting science. So should make for some interesting missions here in the future. And yeah, like I said, I've wanted some rovers that I can use, and now thankfully I've got them. So hope you guys are enjoying the series. Please stick around. Maybe I'll put together some footage of me putting these rovers to use. Appreciate you for tuning in. Hit the like button if you haven't already, and subscribe. Thank you for tuning in, and I hope to see you guys real soon.